Thank you for joining me today on this review of the Williams Optics Redcat 71. I purchased this thing right about 4 months ago. I figured it's time to do a little review. So let's get to it. It comes in this really nice case. It's well padded, and it's just a real nice carrying case. Comes with quick start guide, warranty card, handy dandy adjustment Allen wrench, and it's packed in here nice and tight. Let's see if you can see this. Fits in the carrying case really nice. There it is in all its glory. Weighs about 6.2 pounds, scope by itself, and that's about 8 pounds with a neat little uh, attachment bar, carrying handle, if you want to call it, the attachment clips, and the Vixen style uh, saddle. And this can be used either way. This can be flipped over. Um, there's another term for it, drawing a blank, but it's a different style. You can flip this over and use it, but it comes standard so where it'll fit a Vixen style mount. The focal length is roughly 348 millimeters with a 71 millimeter aperture. Image circle of 43 millimeters, so it's ready for your full um, full frame camera sensors. I don't have one of those yet, but that's next on my list. All right, so let's get into it a little bit. So we have a real, it's well built. So far, I don't have any issues with the quality of this scope. It's very nice, machine quality. It's it's well worth the money. I wish I could buy another one, but I'll have to save up for that one later. For the front here, we have a really nice dust cover, and it has a built-in backknof mat for sharp focus. Perfect focus. Works great. Lasts a long time. Next, we have dew shield, built-in dew shield here. And I have mine a little tight. There we go. So it's got a built-in dew shield, but it's also the tension for the focuser here, with the helical focuser. So you just have to leave it a little loose here, and then easily adjust your focus, like so. It also has the capability of putting a electronic focus motor on here, but you have to buy the kit. These little blocks will go underneath here, raise this up maybe about an inch or so. It goes underneath here. It puts this drive motor belt on here. That's another modification I'd like to save up for, make my life a little easier. But so far, I haven't had any issues with the dew shield. I've had one or two little small issues, which we'll cover later, with the general tightening of this focuser. But so far, overall, really impressed. These clamps, they work very well. You just loosen them, tighten them back down. You can take this whole scope off. Pretty simple, pretty easy. What I really like about this one is the adjustable uh, it's the adjustable standby. the camera angle rotator. So you can put your camera on here and you can set your image if your scope is turned off or to the left and you don't like the way your picture is lined up, you can just simply adjust it to where you want it. Make your perfect image each time. It comes with a nice dust cover here. It also has well, it has a place to put 2-inch filters inside. I know it's hard to see here, but there are some Allen screws that go inside of here. And this is really important. Don't do what I did. Don't make the mistake that I did. There's no instructions in this quick start guide, and there's no instructions on the internet if you've never seen one of these before, which I've never have, and I'm a beginner. I've never seen one of these before, so I had no idea what these Allen screws were for. There was no videos on the internet at the time or anything. So what you do is this thing comes to you, these Allen screws are tight. They're not very tight, but they're tight enough to where you cannot separate the housing from the filter housing. So don't do what I did, which was I went and got me a pair of pliers, boneheaded maneuver, and tried to take this apart. And when it wouldn't come apart, I put it in a vise with some brass fittings, of course. It didn't hurt it, but I still couldn't get it. It wouldn't come out. So then I started looking through my warranty card, and inside the back side of the warranty card, there was a nice little packet with a Allen key. And I started looking at it, and then this little Allen key just simply goes in here. You just simply loosen those Allen keys, the screws, and then voila, it's like magic. It comes apart. So don't make that mistake. Then you can simply thread this back on. I like to keep mine snug. I don't want my stuff falling off. Then you can take a filter such as the L Ultimate, Optolong L Ultimate filter, Optolong L Ultimate filter. It's a 2-inch. And you can just, it's really hard to see, you can simply screw it in. You just take your filter, screw it in here. Now your filter's on. Now you're good to go. So far, I have not found a need to tighten these back down. You can do as you want. I just give it a little snug, and it seems to stay very tight for me. I've never had a problem with it. You can either use the filter like that, or you can use a filter drawer. The only time that I use it like this is when I use my Canon Rebel T7. I'll use that. Sometimes my DSLR camera, I'll use it, and I don't have a way to put a filter on that, so I use this when I use that for that filter purpose. So that how you would use a filter for that. Huh? That's back on. All right, next, how are we going to install a camera? But first of all, let's talk about DSLR camera connecting to this. Don't do this mistake that I did as well. So what I have here is this is my DSLR T connector for my Galaxy Hunter here for my uh, I guess it's a Schmidt Castle Green. Um, so all I have to do for it is I would just take and thread on the piece that it comes with, and I'd screw it on to here, and it would adapt to my camera. Well, as you can see, it won't go on to here. Um, so I thought, well, I could just get this M42 to M48, which there's no videos out there, it doesn't tell you anything about it, to do it or not to do it. And you can put this M42 adapter on here. Then you can simply put on your other filter here. I'm not filter. You can put your other P ring on here. I'm not going to screw it all the way down. I don't want to get it too tight. And then you attach your camera. It will focus. It will focus, but it will not completely get it into perfect focus. You can go look at the moon, and it'll be good, but it won't be perfectly good, and you just cannot quite sharp focus on the star. I had no clue. So I reached out to the individuals who I bought it from, which is High Point Scientific, which I'm not getting paid or any type of things from this video from High Point Scientific, but I buy all my stuff from High Point Scientific because they have one of the best customer services out there. So I gave him a call, told him what was going on, and he immediately said, "Well, you can't use your regular adapter with your DSLR. You need the M48. This is an M42 T adapter. This is an M48 T adapter. That tiny little bit of, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 8 millimeters at the most difference was just enough to keep it from getting just quite enough focus. So now you just take off your plug, your dust cover, M48 dust cover, put on your M48 T adapter for this is a Canon, just like that, and simply put on the camera. Perfect focus, not a problem. Just don't make that mistake because I was banging my head for quite a while trying to figure that one out. All right, so now this is how I hook up my ZWO 2600 MC Pro camera to this. And again, um, not quite sure how to hook this up the first time. So it took me a couple tries. I tried it 2 or 3 times and I just could not get my focus. It just would not focus. And again, I'm a beginner at this, so there's no really good videos out there. I haven't found a video out there for the Red Cat 71. There's all kinds of videos for the Red Cat 51, but it didn't really talk about which type thread these are. And if you're a beginner, the M42 to M48, the 50s, all these different numbers were just killing me. I didn't know what they were. I'm still trying to figure all that out. So I went and I called High Point Scientific again, and I told them what I was doing, and they quickly told me that I was doing it wrong. So whereas again, I had this M42 adapter, M48 to M42 adapter, This little tiny adapter will throw everything off. So don't use it on this setup. Do not make the mistake I did. It'll just give you a headache. So your eyes put this little adapter on, and then I needed to get it to fit to there. So I still had one of those other little M42 to M48 little rings, and I put it on here. So this would mount onto here. Then I would mount my camera because uh, I've heard that you needed to keep, and I don't know if this is true or not. So if somebody knows, please let me know. But I've always heard that you want to keep your filter as close as you can to your camera. I have seen other people have their spacers into here and then the filter closer to the last piece of glass in your telescope. I don't know which one is correct. So if you know, please let me know. That I'm just trying to figure that one out. So what I did was is when I connected that to this and then I connected it to this, again, I could achieve a somewhat of a focus, but never a perfect focus. I could never get it to where I have that nice, clear focus. So the guys at the people at the people at High Point Scientific, the customer service people at High Point Scientific told me to simply get rid of this M48 to M42 adapter. So I did. I got rid of it. And then all I needed to do was to take my my basic 55 millimeters of back focus. Um, it's not so much relevant with this type of telescope design, but it's more forgiving than the Schmidt Cassegrain behind me. You have to have exactly the 55 millimeters. This one I could have 56 to maybe, you know, I could maybe go one or two more, but it's not as much because it just focuses different. I don't know. It's PFM to me. I don't know the science behind it, but it works. So what they told me to do was get rid of that adapter and take my M42 to M48 adapter with this setup here that I got from High Point Scientific. It's the ZWO filter drawer. Um, uh, the filter drawer didn't come with the camera, but the camera came with everything we needed to hook this up. So basically, you just put the filter drawer on there, take the camera, gently thread it on, support it real nice and smooth like, and there we go. It's like magic. It connected right on, and I was able to achieve perfect focus the very first time I went out. This was causing me some headache to begin with, and like I say, I went out. I think 3 nights. Don't laugh at me. I went out 3 nights, separate nights. They were all great nights, and I could not get this thing focused. And I was ready. I was really ready to just get rid of this telescope because I thought I had it right. And it was just a simple, stupid mistake that I was making. Earlier, when we were talking about um, your image, this is a really nice feature that I like about this telescope is that if I have it set up to where I want my a picture that I'm taking the certain angle that I want, I can leave it as it is, or I can adjust the knob up here, and I can rotate the camera around to however I want it. Take my subs, see if my picture is going to come out, frame it up the way that I want, and then lock it down. That's really nice. I really enjoy that feature. Never had that before. This is the first telescope with that, but I really thoroughly enjoy that. Um, so let's talk about the issue that I had before we move on. The issue that I had when I first got this, after after I figured out how to focus and what I was doing wrong, and High Point Scientific customer service people got me squared away. I went out. I was trying to image. I was trying to trying to get my focus down, and they suggested there's no there's no, like, again, there's a quick start guide here, but it doesn't tell you really how to do it. So you got to figure it out from yourself, unless you've had a Red Cat 51 and you know from experience. Well, I don't. This is the first William Optics that I've ever owned. So they said to leave this thing slightly loose, just slight. Then you can adjust your focus. So I did that. And then they say to just take this and tighten it down. Well, I did that, but and it still currently does this with this telescope, and they haven't figured it out yet. But when I have my picture, and let's just say that this perfect focus here is going up and down, and then here, I'll put this on here so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's get this right. Let's just pretend that let's pretend that the focuser is nice and tight. As tight as it'll go. You don't want to over crank it, but it's tight. So, I mean, your dust cover is tight. Not your dust cover. Let's say that your dew shield is tight, and it's as tight as you want to get it, and it's straight up and down. Your image is straight up and down, as in this picture right here, as the little smiley face, the diffraction spikes. But with this one, and I can't figure this out yet, and they haven't figured it out yet either, is when it's tight and you just tighten it down ever so more like this, nothing moves in the image train. The image train does not move. It's staying straight. It's set at 250 degrees, or the angle is 250, whatever you want to call it. It's set at 250. When I tighten this down, the image turns on the screen. I've got a perfect sharp focus like this, and when I tighten it down, it tilts maybe 20 degrees, 15 degrees, somewhere around in there. And at first, I thought that the whole telescope was rotating. So I checked these bolts, and they're nice and tight. They won't turn. This scope is not turning on the inside. If these were loose and you go to tighten this down, yeah, your whole telescope is going to move inside the rings. Well, it's not. And I've talked to the customer service people at William Optics, at High Point Scientific, and so far they haven't. No one knows. No one knows what it is, but it takes awesome pictures, so I'm not that worried about it. But that is the only little quirk that I have with this telescope at the moment. Other than that, it's an amazing telescope. Love it to death. Um, all right, so next, let's talk about the nice little shoe here. Mounting bracket. It can be a nice carrying handle, or mount for me as a beginner. I still need, and a I still use a finder scope. So I'll put the finder scope on top of here. I'll get everything set up, and then I'll move into I'll just simply put my guide scope on here, and I'll lock it down. And that is my Red Cat 71 setup. Now I do have, and I will go over it at a later date and time. What I call, this is something that I made up. I like to call it the this is the Red Cat 71. It's perfect. It's wide field, for imaging. It works great, but I wanted just a little bit more of focus power. So I created in what I call the Super Cat 71, and that's where I take off my camera and I put a 2.5 times power mate, 2 inch, 2.5 times power mate on here. Um, and I know that people will say, "Oh, you shouldn't use a a power mate, or any type of magnifier for uh, a Barlow lens, or a power mate for deep space object imaging." Well, I've taken several pictures with it. It takes a little longer. It makes your f-stop. I think it makes your f-stop. This is a f.49, 4.9 by the way, and I think it increases it to an 8 or something like that. Well, the Galaxy Hunter here is an f10, and I've taken awesome pictures with that. It's not designed to take pictures, but I do it. I just do what makes I do what I can do to keep make it working. Um, but it works fine. So one of these days I'll do a review on that and show you how that works. But to me, it works well. Um, this comes with the William Optics gives it a really good warranty, a 2-year warranty. Um, and so far, with the responses that I've had back from High Point Scientific customer service, I have no doubt that if there was something wrong with this, that they would the warranty would cover it and they would get it back to me in a timely manner. Well, thank you for joining me this afternoon on this review of the William Optics Red Cat 71. This is a great telescope. Um, Stick around. I will be hopefully attaching some pictures to this that I've taken with it, just several pictures I've taken over the course of 4 months. Um, and Here very shortly, uh, I'll give you a sneak preview of what I did. This telescope wasn't designed for it, and neither was this um, guide scope designed for it. But ZWO has this pretty neat little feature. Um, they have their uh, ZWO ASI Studio, and inside there they have a couple programs in there. One of them's a meteor capture. I've never done any type of that before. The other night I sat out there with this setup right here, as you see, and I did try to capture the Lyrid meteor shower. But with this 300, roughly 350 millimeters, uh, it it was too zoomed in. It had a good field, but it was too sensitive for the camera. So every time a star or a bright star would rotate past the field, um, I put it on the tripod, but um, I did not have it tracking, so it was sitting still stationary. So as the stars would come by, it would capture it and it would trigger it. Well, after about 10 minutes of that, I stopped it and then I used this. And this was a little less sensitive, but it worked pretty well. It's pretty neat. I saw some pretty neat things out in the sky overnight, but it was on there for several hours. I just started at roughly 10 o'clock at night, and then it just went all morning long. And um, just be looking be looking for a video on that. And pretty neat. There's some pretty cool pictures that came out of that. So hopefully I can get that processed and uploaded. But thank you for tuning into this review of the William Optics Red Cat 71. Um, I give it 2 thumbs up.